What if I told you that America's deadliest fighter pilot in World War II never became a household name like Eisenhower, Patton, or MacArthur? What if I told you that one young man from a small town in Wisconsin became such a nightmare in the skies over the Pacific that Japanese pilots whispered his name with fear? His name was Richard Bong. Flying the iconic Lockheed P-38 Lightning, Bong racked up an unbelievable 40 confirmed aerial victories, more than any other American pilot in history. While other heroes were celebrated on posters or in movies, Bong was different. He was modest, almost shy, and hated the spotlight. But in the cockpit, he was unstoppable. To put this into perspective, in the brutal skies of the Pacific, surviving just a handful of dogfights was already considered a miracle. Many American pilots never made it back from their first mission. Yet, Bong not only survived, he dominated, turning the P-38 into a weapon of terror for the Japanese. In this video, we're going to uncover the story of the Japanese nightmare in the sky. How did Richard Bong rise from farm boy to America's #1 ace? What made him so effective against Japan's best pilots? And why, despite his incredible record, is his story not as widely known today? Stick around, because this is not just the tale of a pilot, but of a legend who rewrote what it meant to be a hero in the air. When Richard Bong entered the skies over the Pacific in 1942, the situation was grim. Japanese pilots, flying their feared Zero fighters, dominated the air. Many of them were seasoned veterans, trained long before the war began, and they carried with them a reputation for unmatched skill. American pilots, meanwhile, were still adapting, learning the hard way that dogfights in the Pacific were brutal, merciless, and often short-lived. Losses were heavy. Morale was uncertain. And into this crucible stepped Bong, a man who would completely redefine how the Japanese viewed the American airmen. From his very first missions in the P-38 Lightning, it was clear that Bong possessed a rare instinct for aerial combat. The P-38 was a unique aircraft, twin engines, long-range, heavy firepower, and a distinctive design that made it stand out from the single-engine fighters of its time. Many pilots struggled to unlock its full potential, but Bong treated the Lightning as an extension of himself. His aggressive style perfectly matched the aircraft's strengths. Where others hesitated, Bong attacked. Where others pulled away, he pressed in. And time after time, his boldness paid off. In his first weeks of combat, Bong scored multiple victories against Japanese aircraft. He didn't just survive, he dominated. While the Zero was renowned for its agility, it could not match the speed and firepower of the P-38 in the hands of a skilled pilot. Bong quickly learned to exploit its weaknesses. He would dive from above, using the Lightning's superior speed, smash through formations, and then climb back into the clouds before the enemy could regroup. This tactic, repeated again and again, earned him kill after kill and broke the illusion of Japanese invincibility in the air. By late 1942, Bong's reputation began to spread among both allies and enemies. His fellow pilots admired him not just for his incredible aim and fearlessness, but also for his ability to inspire confidence. Many airmen admitted that flying with Bong nearby gave them hope they might live to see another day. The Japanese, on the other hand, began to fear the Lightning that seemed to strike without warning. There were whispers among pilots that if you saw a silver P-38 diving at you, it might already be too late because Richard Bong was on the hunt. Through 1943, his kill count steadily rose. Dogfight after dogfight, he proved that skill, courage, and cunning could outmatch even the most experienced adversaries. His tally grew into double digits, and soon his name was being compared to the great aces of the First World War. Unlike some reckless fighters who burned out quickly, Bong fought with a calculated boldness. He took risks, yes, but they were always measured, always purposeful. That balance between daring and discipline set him apart. Recognition came quickly. In December 1943, Bong was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, one of the nation's highest honors for valor. But even as medals were pinned on his chest, he remained focused on the fight. He had no interest in celebrity or fame. He wanted only to fly, to protect his men, and to do his part in the grinding struggle of the Pacific War. By early 1944, Bong was not just an ace, he was America's ace of aces. In April, he tied Eddie Rickenbacker's record of 26 victories, a mark that had stood since World War I. Pilots and commanders alike marveled at how he continued to survive mission after mission when so many others were lost. Each victory he scored carried more weight than just a number. Every enemy aircraft destroyed meant American bombers and ground troops had a better chance of surviving. His success became a symbol of hope for Allied forces battling across jungles, islands, and seas. And Bong's victories did not stop at 26. Mission after mission, he pushed higher, eclipsing the records of every American pilot before him. By mid-1944, his tally stood at over 30, and yet he showed no signs of slowing down. Even when exhaustion set in, even when the strain of constant combat weighed on his body and mind, Bong returned to the skies. His commanders knew they had something rare, perhaps once in a generation, in this quiet but relentless pilot. The Japanese, meanwhile, came to know his name. American intelligence intercepted communications in which enemy pilots described the terrible lightning that would dive and strike with deadly precision. They may not have always known his face, but they felt his presence, and it left a mark of fear. For the Japanese, Bong embodied a shift in momentum. No longer were the skies theirs alone. America had found its nightmare in the sky, and his name was Richard Bong. By December 1944, Bong had reached an unprecedented milestone: 40 confirmed aerial victories. No American pilot before or since has ever surpassed that number. 40 kills meant dozens of enemy formations broken, countless missions saved, and an immeasurable impact on the course of the Pacific campaign. His skill was unmatched, his courage unquestioned, and his place in history secured. He was officially America's deadliest ace. Yet even as the tally climbed, Bong remained humble. He never boasted, never celebrated at the expense of others. He carried the weight of the men who didn't make it back, and that weight kept him grounded. For every victory he claimed, he knew how fragile survival in the air truly was. It wasn't about glory. It was about doing his job day after day against an enemy that would not stop coming. General George Kenney, the man who had once predicted Bong's greatness, now faced a new fear: that Bong himself might not make it home. By the end of 1944, Kenney ordered him pulled from combat duty. America had already lost too many heroes, and Bong was simply too valuable to risk any longer. Reluctantly, Bong left the skies of the Pacific. He was sent back to the United States, where he was celebrated as a national hero, decorated with the Medal of Honor, and placed into a safer role as a test pilot. For Bong, it was a bittersweet transition. He had achieved everything possible in combat, but his heart still longed for the skies where his comrades fought on. Then came the cruelest twist of fate. On August 6, 1945, while the world was shaken by the news of the atomic bomb falling on Hiroshima, another tragedy unfolded far from the battlefield. Richard Bong was test flying a new P-80 Shooting Star jet fighter in California. Shortly after takeoff, something went terribly wrong. The engine failed, the plane lost control, and Bong was forced to bail out. But his parachute did not open. The man who had survived countless battles, who had defeated the best Japan had to offer, was killed not in combat, but in a peacetime accident. He was just 24 years old. The timing of his death meant that news of the atomic bomb overshadowed the loss of America's greatest ace. Newspapers carried his obituary, but history was already shifting its focus to a new and terrifying chapter. Still, for those who knew him, the impact was devastating. General Douglas MacArthur called him the bravest of the brave, and his funeral in Wisconsin drew thousands of mourners who recognized that an irreplaceable hero had been lost. Richard Bong's legacy is not confined to numbers, though his 40 kills remain a record that speaks for itself. His true legacy lies in what those victories meant. They were symbols of resilience in the darkest days of the war, proof that Japan's air supremacy could be challenged and broken, and reminders to every American fighting in the Pacific that the enemy was not invincible. Bong represented not just deadly skill, but quiet determination and humility. He never chased fame, yet fame found him. He never sought glory, yet he became a legend. Today, his name is remembered at the Richard Bong. Bong Veterans Historical Center in Superior, Wisconsin, where his story continues to inspire new generations. For pilots and historians, he remains the embodiment of the American fighting spirit in the air. He was the nightmare Japan could not defeat, and the hero America never forgot. Richard Bong, America's ace of aces, proved that one man armed with courage, skill, and relentless will could change the course of a war fought in the skies. Richard Bong's story is one of those rare tales in history where courage, skill, and humility come together to shape a true legend. He was not a man who sought fame, nor someone who measured his life by the medals pinned on his chest. He was, at his core, a pilot who believed in doing his duty, protecting his comrades and fighting for a cause greater than himself. In just 3 short years of combat, Bong achieved what no other American pilot has ever matched: 40 aerial victories, each one a testament to his relentless determination and unmatched instincts in the sky. And yet, his greatness was not defined solely by numbers. It was defined by the way he carried himself. Fellow pilots remembered him not as a boastful ace, but as a calm and steady presence, someone who lifted morale simply by being there. To the Japanese, he was a nightmare in the sky, a relentless hunter who shattered the illusion of their dominance. To his country, he became a symbol of resilience, proof that in even the darkest hours of the Pacific War, America could rise to meet the challenge. His death in 1945, so sudden and far from the battlefield, was a cruel reminder of how fragile even the greatest lives can be. But legends do not fade. Richard Bong's legacy lives on in every pilot who studies his tactics, in every American who remembers the sacrifices of the Pacific Campaign, and in the very idea that one person with courage and conviction can turn the tide of history. He was America's deadliest ace and one of its most unforgettable heroes.